we are about to begin the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free bi-weekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
Welcome everybody to another QB Power Hour. Today we'll be talking about Intuit news and updates. So we have a lot to unpack with our panel. We have three people today, Michelle and Matthew, as well as Ted McRae from Makers Hub, who is
805 baby. Sorry.
helping us out, of course, with the CPE that is eligible for this webinar today. So today we're going to be talking about and kind of unpacking, for the most part, the Intuit Connect conference, which was just last week. So we have a lot of information to digest, and I think we're still kind of digesting some of that and interpreting how this is what this looks like for QuickBooks, Intuit, and the accounting community in general. So we appreciate you joining us here today. So Michelle, introduce yourself like anybody needs to know who Michelle Long is.
Hey everybody, and go Chiefs. We had a very tough game last night, so I'm very glad that we pulled that out in overtime at the last minute, but very glad to be back from that. So anyway, I'm Michelle Long, owner of Launch for Success, former trainer for Intuit for a number of years, and owner of Launch for Success, recently retired, but author of some books. Check them out. But glad to be back. Anyway, go ahead, Dan. That's enough about me.
Likewise. My name is Dan DeLong, owner at Dan With and School of Bookkeeping. Worked at Intuit for quite some time. Co-hosting today, as well as the Workshop Wednesdays tomorrow, which incidentally we'll be having Nick from Makers Hub to talk about some of the new advancements in Makers Hub. So if you want to check that out tomorrow, it's going to be very casual. We're not going to be diving deep into the Makers Hub platform. We'll save that for the Power Hour. But this will be talking about the purchase order matching, which they showed at the Intuit conference. So that was wanted to have them on to talk about that. And we'll be and of course I do the tech editing for the QBO Dummies series, which is interesting because it must have just got recently published, because I see a lot of people coming to School of Bookkeeping because we have a link there for that in the book. So it must be launched. So they don't tell me when they actually publish the book. They just give me a deadline. Right? And then Matthew's joining us here today. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
First, I'm going to say I'm a 49ers fan, and watching Super Bowl from Amsterdam in 2020, where it was the Chiefs versus 49ers, was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. Everybody in that bar sang the national anthem. We got our butt kicked, which sucked. And then on to more important stuff. I am the founder of Parkway Business Solutions, Facebook group QB Community Live, and a fellow 805er, that means Southern California, is Ted here, Makers Hub, who is the true winner of all these conferences. So thank you very much.
That's right.
All right. So a little bit about the QB Power Hour. It's every other Tuesday, and we are eligible for CPE credit for the first webinar of each month, thanks to our friends at Makers Hub. And if you need to access the PDFs, the slides, I did put the links for today's slides in the chat, as well as on our feeds live as well. But you can always go at any time to qbpowerhour.com/resources to access historical webinars, or download the PDFs, or listen to the podcast. All right. So a couple housekeeping. If you have any specific questions about topics that we're talking about here today, please put them in the Q&A, because it makes it a lot easier to follow up with those types of things. And any general comments, please put those in the We also have the links to webinar archive and in the handouts as well. Also, I have a store. If you're so inclined to do that, please help and support us that way. So a little bit about the CPE credits at 1 hour of CPE. You just need to participate answering the poll questions, which we'll launch one shortly, and then evaluate the survey at the end if Zoom cooperates and actually gives the post webinar survey. Participate in that, but as long as you answer all of the poll questions, that is good enough. So I'm still working on sharing this to a group here. So I'm trying to get this into the QB Power user group. There we go. Okay. So a little bit about what we're going to talk about here today is, of course, Intuit Connect was recently ended last week. We want to talk about the experience and the event that itself. But most importantly, we want to talk about what they talked about. And I went to the conference, just to throw out another accounting term, to reconcile. I went there to reconcile what they're saying with what their actions are, and I think that is the way that I went into it. Matthew, did you go into that similarly as you were just reaching for coffee?
Pretty much the whole reason I went to Connect this year, I considered canceling at the last minute, but I went so I could come back and report my thoughts on it after attending for many, many years. So this is going to be an interesting conversation.
And this is our panel here is kind of really an interesting cross section of those, in this space, right? Where I just went to Intuit Connect, and that was my only, conference this year, other than, Scaling New Height. Michelle didn't even attend because and rightfully so, right? And then you went to, a variety of other conferences, so you have a different perspective. And then Ted's joining us from Makers Hub. He attended Intuit Connect as a vendor or a sponsor, so we have different perspectives.
Yeah, I think Ted is the one person who's attended more, right? Ted's probably attended more conferences than all of us this year.
Probably more than everybody. Probably more than everyone on the call.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I didn't attend this year, among others, was I was coming back from Australia not too many days before, and I was having jet lag and all that, and so I chose not to attend. But I did see a lot of comments from other people like myself who didn't want to attend this year for similar reasons, to the sense that Intuit said, oh, only certain people are getting invited this year. And then later, closer to the date of the conference, they said, oh, wait, we have an invitation for everybody now. But Intuit kind of changed the focus of the conference from, the QuickBooks conference to the Intuit conference, and changed the focus to a mid-market conference. So I think they changed the focus from small business to mid-market. And so I think they kind of changed to the attendees and stuff. And so I'm interested in your perspective on who was there, because I did see somebody say, I didn't see many people I recognized. And I saw a lot of names of people on Facebook and stuff saying, I didn't go this year. So what was your perspective from attendees on who was there?
Yeah, I think, there were people that were noticeably not there. And I think that was intentional on both sides, right? With the change of, a change in announcements and some of the things that we'll kind of unpack today, that, people made the choice not to attend. I think last year there was a lot of structure and rigor around, well, if you can't go, what do you got to do with your pass? I ended up getting stuck with an extra ticket. But when I asked them, well, what do I got to do to, do I return it? Because last year it was like, you got to return it, get a credit, and then they'll sell another that new ticket to somebody else. They were like, "Oh, just transfer it to somebody else," and whatever you needed to, financial part of that's between you and them, right? So
Right.
that was kind of a weird or a different perspective of that process from last year, because I was like, oh gosh, I got an extra ticket. Now what do I do about it? I know I'm going to have to go through all this process to offload that, and they're like, no, just there's a transfer option in the attendee portal. But yeah, we want to kind of unpack what they talked about there today, and then talk about the some of the things that are outside of just in Intuit in general. We want to talk about the tax, the TurboTax breakup, which was an interesting not an event, but an interesting happening at Intuit Connect, about how it was addressed. Kind of like that elephant in the room kind of thing. We'll get to that, Matthew. Those thumbs down.
Sorry.
And then there were some things that I heard repeated several times throughout the conference. AI assisted humans and virtual export platform that we kind of want to unpack. So first thing is, let's launch the first poll question. Do you need CPE credit for this webinar? So go ahead and answer that. Matthew, did you have any thoughts about what we had talked about just so far that you want to?
How long is this poll going to run? So a lot. I know we only have an hour, so I'm going to be a little bit reserved onto it. You've got a great layout of the different topics here, and I'm interested. When we get to the part about the apology, let me get my dictionary out for apology. I think that's the one. So I guess the one thing I will say is, before we close this out, is this would be a true, honest opinion throughout all of this. I'm a firm believer that if you're ever offered an opportunity to have a platform to share your voice, it's our job to share the good and the bad in a positive manner. So if we don't do that, we're not doing right by all of those that are joining us today.
I think the one thing everybody can agree on, including Intuit, they are not the best communicators around, and they have not done well on communicating things over the past several years. And so I think, again, they've not communicated well, including the apology.
Maybe they downsized this enough to get us back to San Jose.
That might be the case. Maybe it's all part of the plan. So let me go ahead and close the poll there. We'll move on here. So Intuit Connect, for those of you that might not have known, is a 3-day event this last week at the Aria in Las Vegas, and they've been there. Matthew, I can't. Was this the third year that they were there, or
third year?
Yeah. So they I think we had some discussion as to whether or not it was going to continue there or not, or if they are going back to San Jose, which is where the previous QB Connect conferences were had. But notably, the branding was the first thing that people really notably the branding of the event was purposefully changed from QB Connect to Intuit Connect. This is on the heels of Enterprise Suite announcement, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. So Intuit is being very purposeful in the way that it is, trying to get out from underneath its own branding problem, where QuickBooks, MailChimp, Credit Karma, TurboTax, all of these household name brands kind of have its own, there's a parent company involved here, and that is, I think that's ultimately where Intuit's direction is headed, because of these suite of services that are out there, they all kind of feed into each other. You know, the generative AI is now branded Intuit Assist. It's not QuickBooks Assistant. It's Intuit Assist, because it can, or at least the hope is that it would be able to assist across the Intuit platform, whether it's Credit Karma, TurboTax, or MailChimp, or QuickBooks. So this event was a good event. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they had 3 external keynote speakers. It was supposed to, Leslie Odom Jr. From Hamilton fame it was supposed to be Magic Johnson, and at last minute he had to pivot because he's part owner of the
Was that a basketball joke?
Right, he picked and rolled to supporting his team. He's part owner of the LA Dodgers, so he wanted to support his team, or at least that's the message that was delivered that way. They're put on your tinfoil hat and determine otherwise if that's the case. But Matthew, you want to talk a little bit about these speakers and kind of what you took away? Because you posted a couple things from Leslie Odom that kind of resonated with you.
Yeah, so I didn't see Priya's keynote, so I can't speak to that one. But Mark Matthews and Leslie Odom Jr. were both phenomenal. Mark Matthews, a pro surfer, nut job that likes to go surf 100-foot waves, and his whole speech was talking about addressing fear. And it was really, really neat to see the way he came on stage and talking about it. As a person who grew up in Half Moon Bay, where they have Mavericks, which is a pretty common place where they have these massive waves. It was kind of it was neat to see that. Well-spoken, good energy. Leslie Odom Jr., by far my favorite. He spoke for a bit, had some great, honest answers to questions. But I think what everybody really will remember is the private concert that we had, where he sang a couple different songs, including some from Hamilton, which was just phenomenal. His voice is outstanding. So I loved it. It was a good choice. It really was.
Yeah, and the sequence of the flow of those speakers, like Priya was very intentional about setting gatherings. And that kind of set the stage for the event, because that was the first keynote, which incidentally was at the end of the first day. So it was kind of like it was kind of odd to have the first keynote, like there wasn't like a kickoff of where everybody gets together and then there's you're setting the stage and kicking off the event. It was the end of the first day, which was kind of for me, it was a little bit of an odd placement of that. Like here you're setting the table, but you've already eaten here for a day or so. So it was kind of a peculiar placement of that. But she was really great in engaging the audience about how you show up for a gathering, and that was a really neat placement, I think, of her keynote speech. So let's talk about some of the things that Intuit did announce throughout the event. There was clearly if you went into the exhibit hall and went to the Intuit booth, I wouldn't say it was a booth. It was more of a hub. They put a circle, and half of that circle was all about the Intuit Enterprise Suite, talking about that, and then smaller places throughout their hub, to talk about some of the initiatives that are going on within Intuit, but some of the things that they announced that were noteworthy is a future of QuickBooks, where it's one platform, where QuickBooks and Mailchimp will essentially be in one place. The Intuit Assist, which again can expand or be above all of that and allow you to do things that are pretty cool with regards to the AI tool that they're working on. There was I don't know if you caught this, Matthew, but when they were talking about the Intuit Accountant, I noticed a branding change of Intuit Accountant Suite instead of QBOA, right? So there's that's something to look. I don't know if it's look forward to, but it's it's definitely a change that'll like a branding change that'll likely happen. And then of course the Intuit Enterprise Suite, which we'll unpack there first. So the Intuit announcements. What did you think, Matthew, of when they were talking about this one platform, like a future of a reimagined QuickBooks, where Intuit Assist will kind of be the overarching connector between Mailchimp and QBO?
So I think this is where right now we're going to be complaining and we're going to be uncomfortable for a bit of time. But I think we're going to see in the next 2 years where this all is actually heading. That Intuit is making smart moves. It's all about the data and the connectivity of the bigger vision. So imagine, again, the whole business cycle from your landing page, connecting to people, handling the sales, reminding the person of a future appointment, everything else, future payment, so forth, all these different things that can be done together is going to be powerful. I'm also excited to finally see Intuit Assist after 7 years finally being able to do something. I think that we're actually going to start to see some AI out of that. So these are the things that, as Caleb said, Caleb is like, I was talking with him in the last day, and he was kind of drawing attention to how many improvements they've made into all the other levels at this point in time this year. It's a very aggressive year of new features and functionality throughout all of the QuickBooks Online platform, or Intuit Online platform, whatever I'm supposed to call it nowadays.
Yeah, that will likely be the what we'll be finding this coming year is we'll be catching ourselves of naming it wrong or mislabeling the branding. Michelle, did you have something to add?
I do. I have a question for y'all. So I get the integration with AI and MailChimp and QBO and all that. And I love the concept of, hey, I see you've bought this or you've used our services with this in the past. Like, let's say, for example, we've done your tax prep for years, and now we have this tax advisor, and we can help you with that and sending emails and all that. However, I think this could have been great 3 years ago, but is email outdated? So is MailChimp kind of outdated? Is this form of communication outdated? Is this too late? I mean, I don't know. Because I don't know about MailChimp. Can you communicate via WhatsApp or text messaging or whatever? Like, is email done? Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's a really, really good question.
Yeah.
It's a really good question.
I'm not a power user of MailChimp like Hector would be. I wish we would have had him on. He would have probably been a better been a good add to add. But I know I've used MailChimp a little bit. You can use it for social posting. You can use it for your website. So it's not just emailchimp, as though that's the core of their offering. But you can create journeys and campaigns and those types of things, and have it all feed into your website or your all of the above, whether that be I don't know if you can text text these things to people through MailChimp. I imagine you can, but that's a more deeper knowledge, more intimate knowledge of Mailchimp than I have. Someone is saying, Sebastian, in the
said yes.
yes, you can,
Okay.
you can text. So it is so they'll probably need to rebrand it instead of Mailchimp to, communication
Something else,
chimp or
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Every chimp. I don't know.
Yeah,
All chimp.
that's right. But they certainly can't call it constant contact.
Hold on, let
Because
me
that
go
would
get
be
some
repetitive.
domains before we do talk about this anymore. Let me go buy some domains and then we'll figure that out.
There you go.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Intuit Assist and the Intuit Assist announcements. So a couple things that are going to be that you'll see if you don't see it already. You'll see it in the near future. There's going to be this business feed, which the biggest conversation part that I've seen on our Facebook group is, how do I turn this off? Right? Because it doesn't seem to hold any value just yet. But I don't see a way to turn it off. Matthew, have you seen an option to kind of hide it? I don't foresee that being an option
No.
to turn it off.
So that's one of the, like, Intuit. If you go back and you listen to this, please focus in on this right now. Give people the opportunity to choose to be beta testers for you who actually want to experience all the bugs. We'll happily do it. And then give us the ability to shut things off, at least for a good amount of time, until you know it's legit, because it just slows down and causes so many challenges. We love the evolution of technology, but don't drag us back into the Stone Age while you're trying to figure out your new technology, please.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing the initial posts of, like, things were misspelled, things like that. I was like, you spent billions of dollars on and spell check was not part of that process. But what you'll see is in the business feed, if you look at it today, I was just checking it out yesterday. It does kind of consolidate some of the things that you're looking to, that are focused on your business. I went in there and there was, hey, there's some open invoices. Would you like to, send them an email, as a reminder? And I think on the next screen, I actually have that. But on the side of your invoices now, you'll see this sidebar where you can create transactions from files or images or texts. I tried it, didn't work out. So there's something in the formatting of how you do these things, which is not communicated inside the program. It's not saying why it didn't work right, or how do I format some of these things. They showed it, hey, they gave the use case of, hey, you're out in doing things on paper. You can take a picture of that and then upload it here, and it turns it into magically turns it into an estimate or an invoice. But I don't think I would have wrote my notes the way that they had it in their example of, like, here's the customer, here's the customer's address, here's the, like, it was almost formatted like an invoice on there. Did you catch that, Matthew? As far as that's concerned?
Well, this is where I'm going to shamelessly plug another application called Makers Hub that does a phenomenal job of grabbing the line item details.
I tried it, Dan. It's horrible. I should say it leaves much to be desired.
There you go.
All right, the challenge, just real quickly, the challenge with the line item detail stuff, where all applications have had such a difficult time for years, is it's matching. When you're trying to do line items, you're trying to grab the exact product or service model or SKU number and the details off of it. And you have to really have a large language model to understand what to grab and where. So will they get there? Yes. But I think it's still in the infancy of it.
Right.
And so it's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's a nice framework. But talk a little bit about what you saw, since Matthew, you love the bank feeds, and how Intuit Assist is helping or enhancing the bank feeds that you saw.
So I mean, the things that I've seen that are coming into the bank feeds now, I really would like to give credit to Hector and Mark, because I feel like some of the functionality of the categorization history, search options, everything else, these are things that have been crowdsourced by people that are really talking about what they need to do the job a little faster. The layout's nice, but you know, the news, I think the biggest difference is the ability to do class location immediately inside of like the bank feed area. I do like that part of it more.
Yes. So here's something that I did yesterday, in preparation of these slides with Intuit Assist on the bank feed itself, or I'm sorry, the business feed, not the bank feed. Getting myself confused on which feed I'm at. But the business feed inside of Intuit Assist, it said, "Hey, you've got some open invoices," and then it gave me a link to click on reminders, and then here it gave some context about this customer, right? So since December 2023, they paid 11 invoices. One time they were late. This upcoming, so it gave me some history and context right on the screen, and then gave me the ability to change the tone of the reminder email right there before I even sent it. Right, so I could have made it stern, which would be interesting to see, how that changes the word. But you could do that right on the fly, and you have it essentially all in one screen. So it was nice not to have multiple tabs open to confirm, that hey, they weren't late all the time, or that late payment was not anything that they had anything to do about or anything like that. So it was nice to see it all in one place, and then I could turn on the ability to accept payment because this was overdue or not, right? So I really appreciated that it was all in one place. But the biggest thing that I thought was very telling of this whole conference is the biggest applause, the biggest reaction from the crowd was the little tiny things that was, as this picture illustrates. This is like what took you so long to do these things? Payroll correction went from a 3-day window to 90 days. Like, okay, like it took that long to expand that window, and people were, audibly appreciative of that. The payroll cost allocation by class and project.
That's huge.
That's
huge.
That was one of the biggest, obstacles for people to want to move from desktop to online. It's how well that's handled in desktop, and how poorly, I guess it's manually, I guess, not necessarily poorly, but how manual that process is in QuickBooks Online. Matthew, were you?
I saw, well, two things. One was Kim had made a comment question, which is payroll correction by Intuit, not the user, is the question for the correction part of it. And then the other part I was going to say is the cost allocation by class and project. I wonder if this has to do with their deeper integration with Notify, especially on their enterprise suite, if that's why, because they really are focusing on construction and building out this project and job costing side.
Yeah, I believe that's probably the case, right? Like they're building relationships with other folks who've already been there, done that, sort of thing, and taking their learnings, and that was something that I picked up on during the Intuit part of the main stage was it wasn't a plea, but it was a definite ask. Hey, help us, you know, help us make this better for you. Help us help you. And that was definitely a theme throughout some of the main stages. So I assume we're not alone in that ask of, being asked to, provide that feedback and what do you need us to do so that we can fulfill that for you. But I think the one that got the most applause was the third one here, that Venmo and PayPal are no longer going to be categorized to uncategorized assets. I mean, that's the bar that they're setting. Is that, in I guess the cognitive dissonance that they have to these little tiny things about the things that drive people bonkers, about how the way things are handled inside of QuickBooks Online. I mean, that should have been done long ago, in my opinion. Right? Is that, those that was low hanging fruit for this to happen,
Exactly.
Michelle.
Why the heck did it go to uncategorized asset to begin with? I mean, come on. I mean,
Just to remind you to categorize it, I guess. I mean, it's one of those potluck things, I guess. But
yeah,
Right.
crazy.
But I mean, I spent the third day trying to hunt down a solution for a customer who had migrated from desktop to online, who needed a custom column on an invoice, and there was no one that could help with that at the conference. I talked to Intuit, and they explained, okay, we can't make these changes until everybody's on the new Intuit, invoice formatting. But it was essentially a showstopper for a customer, and it's not one of those things that could be easily identified ahead of time to be able to know that this workflow was something specific that they needed going into the QuickBooks Online.
So this is where the little things, this is where Hector's and Mark's right tool really just is amazing, because all those little things are just incredible and they make your life easier. So I think that's awesome. Can we talk theoretical for a minute?
Sure.
Okay, so you were talking about AI assist and you were talking about categorizing the bank fees and all that, and that's all, and doing the emails and stuff. That's all kind of gimme first wave of AI, in my opinion. But if we look down the road a little bit in the near term, if you look at what Intuit is, and this is my theory, my, prophesizing or whatever, what I envision might be happening in the future with Intuit and QuickBooks and AI, and how we need to be prepared for it or think about what's going to happen. If you look at what Intuit has done on the tax side, they have the tax advisor, and they have the ability, they say, hey, Matt or Dan, if you do tax work, here's this tax advisor services that you can provide to your client, to where you can not just do Dan's tax returns, but Dan, I'm going to give you this tax advisor package to where I'm going to recommend that you do these 3 things to save yourself this much money in tax. So it's tax advisory services, tax planning to save you money in taxes, right? So it's tax advisory services.
Yep.
Let's translate to the accounting side. Mr. Small Business Owner Matt, in order to increase your profitability, I recommend advisory services for you based on the last 12 months. If you to improve your profitability, let's change your pricing by this much. And if we reduce the whatever over here, we can cut your costs here. And if we do this, we can do that. And so based on these advisory services, making these changes, we can improve your profitability by this much. I think that pretty soon, what Intuit has been doing is getting all of these with the tax, the TurboTax, where they're doing the tax prep, and now they're doing the QuickBooks Live with TurboTax Live and QuickBooks Live. They're getting all of that data. You've heard of the large language model. QuickBooks has been preparing their own financial language models or financial models they've got all that data from doing the tax prep and now the bookkeeping prep with the bookkeeping live, to where they now have their own AI analyzing all of this stuff. And you can do it yourself. I've done it. We've demonstrated it on QuickBooks on this Power Hour before, where you can take that and you can say, look at this financial statement. Give me the top 3 things or the top 5 recommendations to improve their profitability. In the very near term, they're going to be able to say, what do you recommend to improve the profitability of this company? And so the little Intuit Assist can be recommending, hey, small business owner, here's how you can improve the profitability. And so I think that's coming to our area as well. So right now, they're just categorizing bank feed and they're helping do a little stern email or friendly email follow up on your collections. But just like we have tax advisory over here, and they're coming after your tax client, they're coming after your bookkeeping client, follow the dotting line, you know.
Yeah. I participated in Blake Oliver's breakout session on using an automation to do your month end, advisory. Well, basically a month end review of the of the financials, and he had a really neat way of automating that whole process.
Yeah.
You still need to review it, he uses Process Street, which combines people and the automation to be able to streamline all of those things in cooperation with ChatGPT and Zapier to make those things automated. But there were checkpoints along the way.
Process Street's dope.
I don't know. Go ahead.
The key thing I want to stress, okay, let's say that this can spit it out and it says, hey, small business owner, this is what you should do. It's all about the relationship. We still have to talk to our clients. The client can read that, but it still may be overwhelming to them. They still may not understand it. It's still accounting speak, financial speak. It's still business terms that they may not be familiar with. So we still need to focus on the relationships with our clients. So please focus on building those relationships with your clients.
Yep.
And like Dan said, if you've got a process and you've got a tool to help you with that, it's still a tool that, yes, we need to review it. We need to make sure it's accurate because there can be mistakes. And we need to review it with our client and say, I'm going to help you with that. I'm going to help you to understand, here's what we've got. Here's what we're going to, it's going to help us to be way more efficient and get the job done. But we've got to communicate with that client and help implement that. But I do see this is going to happen in the near future. And Intuit can do this. They can do it cheaper. So can everybody else out there, from the Spark and the Pilot and all these other companies that are also doing bookkeeping services for little or nothing. We've got to know that this is going to happen. So you have got to develop those relationships with your clients. So sorry.
Yeah. I think the key takeaway from from my 1 day reframe, and maybe you can speak to this, Matthew, too, is Hector, speaks to, automate your workflows, but humanize the relationship. Amen. And that humanization of that relationship is what people value more than, the workflow streamlining, right?
Yeah, if I had a mic that wasn't expensive, I would have dropped it for you, Michelle, because you just nailed it. Our job, we always talk about continuing education as bookkeepers, accountants, whatever your title may be. That continuing education now involves artificial intelligence. And just like our clients have a difficult time understanding a profit and loss by itself, whether it's in a graph form or in a verbal form or written form, they're not going to, some will be able to understand and interact with AI on their own, but these become the tools that we use to provide better resources to our clients. We've been doing tax projection packets for years. on a quarterly basis to help our clients better understand what they're looking at throughout the year. Because the one thing AI is not going to know, especially if you're relationship driven, is the fact that the business owner's truck's alternator has gone out 3 times. He needs new tires on the
Right,
vehicle.
right.
And he's got one employee who's complaining about having to work overtime. And those conversation things, AI doesn't have that ability. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have the ability to ask questions. It can
Yeah.
evaluate data, but it can't ask random questions the same way.
And it can't think outside the box. One of the
Yeah.
things that I heard, you remember Sully that landed the plane on the river?
Yeah.
The
Yep.
plane was going to crash. Okay.
Yeah,
The
great
pilot
analogy.
knew the plane was going to crash. He knew how to crash the plane successfully without killing everybody. So he knew he had to think outside the box. We're going to crash. How do I crash successfully? AI can't do that. So as a pilot, he had to say, how can I crash this plane successfully so I don't kill everybody? And he did. And AI can't do that. It can't think outside the box to come up with a solution. AI can't do that. A human can do that. So anyway, sorry, continue on. And let's talk about the apology or not apology.
This is why your voice and your perspective is still needed in this
Yep.
in this community, Michelle. I did, because we're running close to the top of the hour and we still have 2 more full questions to get through. I did just launch that in the middle of what Matthew was saying as to whether or not you did attend Intuit Connect this year or in the past. But we want to talk a little bit about the Intuit Enterprise Suite. It is
It's sexy.
it
I
is
think it's sexy.
it is and it comes with a sexy price tag. And they won't tell us what that price tag is, right? So in the next year,
If you have to
we'll
ask,
find
we
out
can't afford
more.
it.
Exactly, because it is a compilation of
Yeah.
Intuit products and services, potential. There's a user count. There's no matrix that you can put on a website to say, hey, this is how much Intuit Enterprise Suite is going to cost you. But there are 3 main feature buckets, I think, is where Intuit Enterprise Suite is going, is with multiple entities, additional dimensions, which is a new concept, a brand new concept, and change orders as an actual transaction. I do have a link there for my first look at Intuit Enterprise Suite. You can take a look at that blog. But I wouldn't expect to see anything like demo related as far as whether or not you can get your hands on a trial or a test drive for another year, right? Like Intuit is very aware that this is a multi-touch, long sales cycle of people deciding whether or not they're using this, and there's going to be a negotiation process when they come with, here's what we feel would serve you best in this Intuit ecosystem, and then they're going to come back with, well, we do a lot of volume, so can we get a break on that? So there's going to be a lot of trial and error in the next year of trying to figure out what this will be, and this framework is good. But I think if you looked at it today and said, okay, well, this client might be a good fit for that, there's going to be a miss there. And I think that was what I was interpreting as they were launching or announcing all of this stuff, is that the majority of the folks who cheered at Venmo no longer going to uncategorized asset, they wouldn't have a whole lot of clients that would be best suited for something that would be in the thousands per year with the Intuit Enterprise Suite. Matthew, what do you think?
So a couple things. First, Janice, to answer your question, Intuit Enterprise Suite is an online product. It's not a desktop product. So it is that next evolution. Another thing that I think is important to let people know, from what I asked on purpose, are they changing the API? In other words, the apps you're currently using, will they continue to work or not? And it's supposed to be the same API, so same functionality, same connectivity. That's an important thing. This is this is their stab at the ERP world, but it's meant to be just a step below a NetSuite still, I believe. That's not official language, so if I got that wrong, I apologize, but I do believe that's where it's supposed to be at currently. I will push real hard to get access to push buttons and try to break this if I can.
And they're, I think their first pass at ideal fit for Intuit Enterprise Suite is the people who are already on QuickBooks Online that have multiple entities, that have those kinds of workflows that they're struggling to, they're bumping up against the ceiling when it comes to the functionality inside of the online ecosystem. They're not making any claim that this is QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop in the cloud, right? So they're clearly not. I mean, they're not making any type of claim of those types of things. But I think what they are seeing is that there's companies that have 5 QuickBooks Online subscriptions, or advanced, and they're trying to do the things. Yeah, and then okay, well, maybe we can consolidate those and do some multi-dimensional reporting and do froms with the multi entities. That is a big time saver for those people, and I think those are their target market, at least initially.
That was a hot one real quick. I know we're getting close on time, but that was a hot one. That one of the biggest things with enterprise is the ability for journal entries to do cross-company journal entries. So you can move things from one company to another in the same journal entry because you're assigning which company it is. Now, Katie asked a great question. I didn't pick up on this one. Is Enterprise Online going to be a product upgrade? Will we as QuickBooks Online accountants be able to still have QBOA and access it the same way? How will that work? I don't know.
Yeah, you'll still have accountant access, to clients who have it, right? So the way that I interpreted it is that just like QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Online Accountant, as an accountant user, you have a feature set that sits on top of QuickBooks Online. Intuit Enterprise Suite will be in that same vein, that those feature sets that come along with Intuit Enterprise Suite will sit on top of the foundation, which is going to be QuickBooks Online. So you're going to have this parent-child relationship with your multiple entities, but those features and users that you're going to be able to invite and grant access to, much like you as an accountant, you have an accountant invitation to a QuickBooks Online subscription, and you can invite team members to your QuickBooks Online accountant, and they can dovetail off of your accountant invitation into your client, right? So as a user in Intuit Enterprise Suite, they will have a user base, which is they've claimed it's up to 500 users that you'll be able to have inside of Intuit Enterprise Suite as a user. But then you can provide granular access to those entities as to what they can do. So very similar to what you see as an accountant invitation. You'll be, if you have a client who's on Intuit Enterprise Suite, you will have an accountant invitation just like anybody else. They'll be in your client list, and then you can, access those clients, and then your team can dovetail off of that. So it's kind of like a feature set that sits on top of the foundation. So we only have 6 minutes to talk about.
One last thing I want to add real quick there.
Go ahead.
I still want full access to all my custom fields through the API, please. That's the one thing I've been harping on for years. Every app would love the ability to push all that data in, and we could actually do more reporting wise. Even the enterprise would be phenomenal with that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, and
I'm going to go ahead and launch that last third poll question, which I've lost it. Where'd they go? I don't know, Matthew, if you see it, if you could.
Let me take a look here.
Yeah, we'll launch the last one. So while you're, we're talking about the Intuit TurboTax breakup. So if you have been under a rock and not aware of what's been going on, Intuit launched a TurboTax ad campaign and promotion, where essentially they are targeting taxpayers to use their full service tax product for Intuit TurboTax. And the promotion is whatever you paid your tax preparer last year, we'll give you 10% off if you sign up, before a certain day. The National Association of Tax Professionals, they responded pretty, I don't know, politically, I guess it's the best way to say, they're not, they were not, their response was, we're not accepting anything from Intuit, in the future, because we're trying to protect our members, and not necessarily persuading people to not use Intuit products and services, but they're trying to be Switzerland in the in the process. But they made a statement, to that, and during the initial first keynote, there was a fireside chat without any fire between Greg Johnson, I believe, and Sasan Goodarzi. And right at the end, he decided to address the elephant in the room about that. And he, air quotes here, apologized for the way things occurred. I think the general consensus from those that I talked to is that he apologized for people's feelings being hurt, but didn't apologize for the direction that they're heading. And the person I was sitting next to, who was a member of Toastmasters, said that he could probably go to Toastmasters to talk about how is his delivery of said apology. Michelle, you had some thoughts about it as well. So you want to?
Well, I wasn't in the room. I listened to the recording that you had posted. So I didn't see any body language or anything. I only heard the recording. And what I heard was, we did this ad, we did this, blah, 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 but here's why we did it. So tough shit, basically. So tough shit if it hurt your feelings. We did it because, there's people out here who want, who can't afford a tax person. And so we want, to help get their taxes done. And too bad if it hurt your feelings. And, we're going to stop the ad. However, I kind of feel like they said, oh, gee, we paid for the ads to run through the end of the month. So we told them to stop at the end of the month, not to stop immediately, because the ads continued and the emails continued, blah, blah, blah. So they may have said, stop the ads at this point in time. I don't think things stop immediately like some people do when there's a crisis, PR crisis. They may have said stop the ads, but it didn't stop immediately. The emails didn't stop immediately. Yeah. We all saw them later. So
yeah, they took it off of YouTube. That's the that's the immediate thing that they did, because I
censored off of YouTube.
I had the ad embedded into my blog, and then of course I went up and go look at it, and it's like, this video is no longer available. So I had to find it somewhere else in order so that someone would be able to see what it's all about. And I do have a link there for the ad and the apology and my interpretation of that. Matthew, what are your thoughts there?
So first off, it was a hell of an ad. I mean, it definitely, like, the marketing company that did it, it worked, right? Cindy said it well. This is where I always get, my signals crossed a bit. It's a publicly traded corporation whose first responsibility is to the shareholders. Simple as that. The problem I have is the hot air BS apology is the way it's approached that way. The amount of time the ad was up, it did its job. It really did.
Mhm.
It's all that was necessary. It caused the buzz, everything else. This won't be the last time it happens. I think another part of the reason these things occur, again, it was a great ad. It sucked, but it was a great ad, is it's external ad companies, right hand, left hand, they don't always know what's happening. If you've ever worked within the company itself, there's all these different divisions that they don't understand what the other ones are doing. And everybody, we just need to understand at this point in time, this is a tool we use in our practice. We are a tool for them to continue to sell subscriptions. So recognize it, and we need to stop being surprised when these things happen. It's going to continue to happen, I think. But it was a good ad.
Yeah. And so we're up at the top of the hour. We have a couple things to kind of chat about. If you answer the poll questions, and you need to take off, please do. Matthew and Michelle and Ted, I think we can stick around for another 5 minutes to kind of wrap this up here, because I do want to talk about the AI, this theme of AI assisted humans and virtual expert platform, which was one of the I don't know if you want to call it an excuse or an explanation of in this apology that they're looking to create a virtual expert platform with AI assisted humans, right? So what does that actually look like? These were common terms that were used throughout the conference, and it's really unclear of who. And this was my takeaway: is that it was unclear as to who these experts are and what those humans who those humans are in that equation, right? So this is what they're doing, right? They're making a virtual expert platform, whether that's for TurboTax or QuickBooks, right? There's going to be all of these virtual experts. Now they may be badged employees that are the virtual experts. They may be badged employees who came from the accounting industry or are relatively new to the accounting industry that are looking for, well, how do I get experience if I don't have any clients, and how do I get any clients if I don't have any experience? They may have an option, to be able to start to learn that. And you used a specific term, Matthew, and I want to leverage that. It's a tool, right? They are creating a tool to leverage, right? So I have a famous, well, not a famous, but I mean, one of my mantras is, you have to find something to leverage. You can pick up a car if you have enough leverage, but by yourself, unless you are green and angry, you're not going to be able to pick up that car.
Or Shaq.
But if you have the right tool, you'll be able to do so, right? And somebody once told me, you need to find something to leverage in this world. If you don't have something to leverage, you're the leverage, right? So somebody is leveraging you, whether you're an employee of a company or something along those lines. If you don't have something to leverage, then you are the one that is being the tool. And that's what this is all about to me, is that they are creating tools that you can leverage to, again, automate those workflows, but you are the one to humanize that relationship. And that, again, is what people are going to value over anything else, is that humanization, that looking out for them. And those tools and platforms and whatever they are, those will change, over time, and there will always be a new shiny object, innovation that will help with those things. It's just whether or not you're able to leverage that to increase your value and lift that car that you need to.
Real quickly, one of the things, Michelle, you just nailed it. That's exactly where I was going to go with this is we talk a lot about QuickBooks Live and, the people that work there, so forth. I actually suggest if you're just getting started, go look into working with QuickBooks Live, especially if you need benefits. It will help you get the hours. It can be part-time. It's a phenomenal way to help build up your experience. All we ask in return is do the best damn job you possibly can. So when you're there doing it, if we're going to be training the AI, let's give them good training so the tools in the future we're using are helpful to us. That's the way we can actually manipulate AI to benefit us. And again, if you need the work and you need the healthcare, those things, go apply.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yes, it can be great when you're starting your practice. Let's say, or somebody in my situation, if I'm wanting to retire, but yet I'm not old enough for Medicare yet, and I still need health care, it could be a great option for me to go work 20 hours a week to be able to get health care and benefits. Because Intuit does offer for QB Live bookkeepers working 20 hours a week, you can get health care. So if you're starting your practice, if you're retiring and you want benefits, yes, QB Live. But they are offshoring a lot of this now as well. So because they need hundreds and hundreds of bookkeepers for QB Live. Now with TurboTax Live, it's seasonal. So they don't have the healthcare benefits. But yes, Intuit, as much as we're dogging on them and their relationship with us as ProAdvisors in the accounting community, as an employer, aside from the layoffs and the communication, as an employer, they offer great benefits. They are, routinely a top company to work for in the past. I know there have been some communication and some issues. They lay off every year. No corporate company is that wonderful. That's part of why I always had my own firm. But anyway, it is a very good option. You do get training. They will teach you things. You do learn things. They have Intuit Academy where you can learn bookkeeping and all this, and you can take the test. And so it is a very viable option in some situations. So that is something to look into as well. And yeah,
Exactly.
try to do a good job. So you're training AI the right way.
I do want to really quickly share the last poll questions because it is very telling, I think, of this community and the concerns that they have. The biggest answer here is what concerns do you have regarding Intuit's direction? Is I don't believe that they're listening to the accounting community's feedback. I think that there's a lot of feedback, right? I mean, there is no shortage of feedback that they have to, sort through. So somebody's, feedback question, may be specific, like in my case of, hey, I really need a custom column on an invoice, is not something that, might not be a huge win, for them to do across the board, right? So my feedback, as it was urgent enough for me to walk around the conference trying to figure out a solution, wasn't, probably isn't as high up on the priority list as some other feedback, but definitely, the whole Venmo uncategorized asset type of thing, that feedback should have been addressed a long time ago, in my opinion. But some of these things here are very unique in this community and how they. Sorry, there's a cat. just eclipsed my webcam. But anyway, yeah. So Matthew, Michelle, any final thoughts on this poll question and how it it plays out in this community.
Michelle.
Go ahead, Matthew. I'm sorry. I was looking at the
I think
chat
you
and
summarized it
stuff.
extremely well. I think we all kind of feel the same way. I still believe in the brand of Intuit. I still plan to continue to use their software. I haven't seen products that really match apples for apples comparison wise out there, to be honest. And then there's also the aspect we have to remember. You're not talking about just changing your workflow. You're talking about retraining all of your clients on their workflows as well. So the grumpiness of like they're doing this or that, if you find a product that does 80% of what you want it to do, you found a damn great product. If it does more than that, you built it yourself. That's what I've always said.
So for me, the one down there, my clients are getting priced out of QuickBooks. The price of everything is going up, and then raising prices every year is kind of to be expected. However, there are a lot of small businesses out there that are struggling. So I understand that, and I wish Intuit could understand that a little bit more and try to hold the prices, because Intuit is having record profits year after year after year. So maybe they could have a little compassion in some sense and maybe try to hold it or not have such high price increases every year. So I think that would go a long way towards your small business community. But like somebody else said, oh, they're starting to focus on mid-market and leave the small business community behind. So that kind of, but on another note, I'm glad I'm retiring because Intuit has broke my heart the last few years. And I'm not very good at keeping my mouth quiet. And I would have said a lot of things probably I shouldn't have to some people, because the last few years, the way they have treated the accounting community and the way things have changed, I just couldn't keep my mouth quiet, I don't think, because the human aspect, we talked about relationships. They've done a lot of damage to the relationship between accountants and Intuit. We used to have a really good relationship between the ProAdvisor community and Intuit, and I cannot say that anymore. So I'm glad that, anyway.
You're not going anywhere yet.
It was great while it lasted. I loved my relationship with Intuit. I was at the right place at the right time, and I loved everything I did with Intuit. I hate the relationship the way it is now because it's deteriorated to such a point that, breaking up is hard to do, but I did it, and I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad I didn't go because it would hurt too much to have that severed relationship, in my opinion. So, it is what it is. Breaking up's hard to do, but I'm glad I walked away because I don't like the way Intuit is now and the way they behave now. And I don't like what I see when I look at Intuit anymore. I don't like the way they treat us as accounting professionals. It hurts me to see how they treat us now. So,
if everybody loves Michelle, put a 1 in the comments right now, please. If you all love Michelle, put a 1 in the comments.
There they go.
That is just sensitive, though. That has nothing to do with the product, has nothing to do with business, but that's the relationship aspect. We were partners. We were working for the good of our clients, and that's not the way it is anymore. And that just hurts me. So sorry. We need to look out for us and our clients. And remember that Intuit is a vendor like all the other vendors at the booth. So
they, leverage that tool to the best of your ability, and it won't be so humanizing and hurtful when they play these shenanigans as they are now expected to do. So, wonderful session. I appreciate both of you joining us here today. Next time on the QB Power Hour, we're going to be talking about sales tax. And we're going to be having Alicia Katz-Pollock joining us here to talk about, it's not such a bad thing if you set it up right. So we'll talk about sales tax and QBO next time on the Power Hour. We hope you're joining us then, and we'll hope you all have a great day, and go vote.
Go vote.
Go vote.
And I can't turn it off. There's too many things on my screen.